The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Funding Education webinar. Thank you all for attending. I'll give everyone else just a quick couple of minutes before we get started. In the meantime, I do want to say thank you to Janine and Donna for putting this together. I really appreciate it. And the focus for today's session is going to be funding education. I'll tell you guys more about my background, about GIBA, and then we'll dive right into it. So it's about 2:01, so we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so a brief overview about GIBA and who we are. It's a Government Employees Benefit Association. It's a nonprofit membership association that was founded by NSA employees and is governed by a volunteer board of federal employees. GIBA is trusted by nearly 17,000 members, and we serve all of the federal employees. Membership is free whenever you enroll in a plan or service with us. What really sets us apart is the personalized service that we provide to our members, especially negotiated group rates and discounts, no obligation consultations, and the strength of highly rated partners. We have a suite of products and services that are tailored to the unique needs of our federal employees. All of our products and services complement the federal benefits. All right, a bit about myself. So I have about 14 years of financial experience. I hold the CHFC and CHFE BC designation, and that's the Charter Financial Consultant and Charter Federal Employee Benefit Consultant. Some of the specialties, some of the things that I do for our clients: financial planning, legacy planning, retirement planning, and our topic for this afternoon, which is college planning. So how can we help you? As I mentioned in the beginning, there's different things that we can position in front of you to help you and complement the federal benefits that you already have. All of our financial plans are uniquely tailored to your needs. There is a lot of analysis that goes on behind each one of our presentations, but there's a multitude of expertise in our team, and we can help in every area of your financial well-being. Two of the main, umbrellas under GIBA. One of them will be the insurance side. You can see all of the different offerings for the member services, right? Dental, vision, emergency travel, professional liability, so on. GIBA Wealth Management, it's primarily where I spend the majority of my time. So we provide financial planning, retirement planning, and all of those areas that you see here. Today's topic is going to be college savings and planning. All right. Well, a well thought out and comprehensive financial plan is going to take all of the components that you see on the screen. One of them is going to be education planning. I think the majority of individuals in this call either have kids or know someone that's getting ready to go to college or has gone through college. So this is just part of the comprehensive nature of a financial plan. This is one small piece of it. Everything else my colleagues have gone through. Education planning is one of those components that it's going to be critical going forward. And as we're going to see here in a few slides, the impact that it's going to have down the road. So here's the agenda for today. We're going to talk about the value of education. We'll go through the cost of a college education. We'll reference different ways to finance that education. We'll talk about savings vehicles, the timeline for the college process, how you can help out, how we can best provide value to you, and the different resources that you have access to. So let's get going. Let's talk about the value of education. So this slide, it's pretty unique in the sense that it really highlights at every level how our clients and how people with different levels of education are doing. Uh, if you look at the left side, the one with the blue bars, all of those numbers equate to the unemployment rate. The biggest bar down at the bottom, right? There's a 5.4% unemployment rate for someone that has less than a high school diploma. And that number continues to decrease as your education level goes up. No surprise if you have a professional or doctoral degree, the unemployment rate for you would be pretty low. Now, on the right hand side, you're going to see the earnings on a weekly basis, right? Those numbers will equate to each education level. Someone with less than a high school diploma or a high school diploma can make about $746 a week. Someone with a master's degree, professional degree, or higher could make substantially more, close to $2,000 a week. As a wrap up here, the more education you have, the higher the prospects of you earning more money during your lifetime, and the lower the prospects that you're going to be unemployed. All right, so college costs. If you are a parent, this is probably in the back of your mind. Myself, as a parent of two, I do think about college costs and what it's doing and how it's going to impact our children when they get closer to that age. But for the last decade, right, college costs have been outpacing inflation nearly 5%. Inflation around that time frame, it's about 1.5%. In today's economic environment, the inflation is substantially higher than that. However, over the long term, it's always averaging around 2%. One of the biggest fears is that students won't be able to earn enough money to really fund their education goals without having to go into significant debt. Right? And when we think about college costs, it's more than just tuition, right? There's fees, there's room and board, there's books, supplies, personal expenses, and transportation, whether they're going to stay in state or go out of state. College costs is simply more than just your tuition and your fees. Now, here is a graph that projects out a 4-year average tuition. Let's take it for the first one, which is the private college comparison between 2021 and 2039. You can see that a private college in today's cost for 4 years will be right around $210,000. When you compare that and what we estimate for those expenses to be in 2039, easily over $500,000. An out-of-state public institution will be about $163,000 in today's cost. Look forward to 2039, that same out-of-state public institution will be about $392,000. Now, the public university, public college will be the least expensive out of all of those. In today's cost, 4-year average, it's about $93,000. If we look forward to 2039, the same public college could be close to $223,000. So when we work with members and their families and we try to come up with a plan that's going to be relevant for them and their family, we really got to keep these figures in mind, knowing that college costs are going to be extremely high whenever our kids are ready to go to school, but they go to that freshman year of college. All right. So here is sort of a similar information than the prior slide, but tells you the number. And you can see the difference between 0405 to 2017 and 2018. This kind of shows you again how inflation has truly impacted college costs over that time period. And families are simply not budgeting for the right education funding. Those prices are going to increase. They haven't slowed down, and they're probably going to continue in the same trajectory. Putting a budget together and making sure that you put money away early would really benefit you and the family, and you'll be able to achieve and take advantage of compound interest over those years. But you can see a public institution back in '05 is about $14,000, and a private, whether it's for not for profit, it's about 32,000. Same institutions. Fast forward to 2017, 2018, you can see that the public one went from 14,000 to 20,000, and the private institution went from 32 to 46,000. There's nothing out there that would lead us to believe those numbers are going to slow down. Ivy League schools tend to be a lot more expensive per year. So we just need to make sure that we're budgeting and saving the right amount for the long haul. All right. Well, how college is funded today. This pie chart kind of give you an idea of where the assets and where the money's coming from. I do have some additional information here that I want to share with you all in this call. But no surprise, grants and scholarships take up a big chunk, about 34%. Now, parent income and their savings, it's another 23%. There's a lot of student borrowing, close to 20%. You could have some students that are working throughout their college education. So they contribute 11%. And then you have the plus loans, which is the parent borrowing money to help out the student. And that comes in around 9%. Small portion of that are your relatives and friends, 4%. One of the other ways that you could fund college education would be if you have an IRA, traditional IRA. a lot of our clients roll their assets over to an IRA. If they are under the age of 59 and a half, right, if you take money out, there could be a 10% penalty. However, if you utilize that money for higher education expenses, you would not have to pay that 10% penalty. So if you have assets in your IRA and you're able to help out someone in the family, your son, your daughter, yourself, or your spouse with college expenses, you could take it from your IRA without paying the penalty if you're under 59 and a half. Now keep in mind, if you do that, you're still going to pay income taxes on it, but you will not be paying the penalty. All you have to do is make sure the school qualifies, make sure that the student qualifies, and they go to school for at least half full time. And you keep really good records of that distribution. Here's a really good example between saving for college and borrowing money for college. You can see on the left-hand side, the borrowing. If you take the blue bar, which is the amount that you're borrowing, right, the interest is going to be on the orange. The total amount, it's going to be substantially higher. when you combine the two of them, right? So that's a direct plus loan at 6.28% over 18 years. It's going to be closer to $39,000 in interest if you were to borrow that money. Compare that to the right side, which is your savings, right? If you put $200 a month away, and let's assume a 7% rate of return on your investments over 18 years, you could have a substantial amount over the course of that investment, which will translate to either having to borrow less money when the student goes to college, or perhaps being able to get scholarships or grants that will fill that gap between your savings and what tuition costs are going to be for that individual. Here are the monthly savings goals by age. We try to break this down by a public in-state university, public out-of-state university, and a private institution. What you want to do here, and the takeaway from this slide, is that the earlier you start, the smaller monthly contribution that you will have to make. Really, when your children are born and you're able to put away money for their education expenses, start putting something away, right? What a lot of our members and our clients do at this point, they automatically direct a portion of their paycheck towards a 529 account, towards a savings account. They try not to use that in their day-to-day spending. They simply set it and forget it, right? Now keep this in mind, $100 per month for 18 years, assuming that the account is a tax-free account like a 529 plan, earning 5% every single year, that account is going to give you about $35,000 at the end of it. The earlier you start, the better it's going to be, and the less chances there will be of you having to borrow some funds for college. All right. So here are some education funding vehicles. You can see that there's many different ways for you to save for your college planning. 529 plans typically tend to be one of the most common ways for members to save money. You know, they're tax preferred vehicles. You don't pay any taxes as long as the money that gets distributed gets utilized towards your higher education expenses. With a 529 plan, what you're going to find out there is your college savings plan and then your prepaid tuition plan. The college savings plan, it's market-based performance, right? If you have some time before the child has to go in the freshman year of college, it's really good for the risk-tolerant investor. There's an open enrollment period at every time. 529 plans include your graduate school, and it's not restricted to any tuition and fees. You can use some of those fundings for room and board. The prepaid tuition with a 529 plan, right? It tracks the tuition inflation. Typically, is best for the risk-averse investor. And whenever you start applying for financial aid, it is considered the parents' or the grandparents' asset. One of the big drawbacks of a prepaid tuition plan is that it might be limited to your undergrad school only. But going down the line here, you have your UGMA and UTMA accounts. That's your Uniform Gifts to Minors Act. and the Uniform Transfer to Minors Act. Those are great ways to save. The major component there is that the money has to go to the individual at the age of maturity, whether it's 18 or 21, depending on where you live. Cover the education savings account, ESA for short. We still see them nowadays. They were really good a few years back. Right now, the 529 is kind of sort of taking over. But the ESA accounts are great for grades K through 12. Contributions are going to be limited, and they will be phased off with that higher income earner. The biggest downside to an ESA account is the fact that you can only contribute $2,000 per year. 529, they typically don't have contribution limits, but it's all based on the state. And whenever that beneficiary in the ESA reaches the age of 30, the account has to be distributed to them. The prepaid college plans, we talked about that. The US Series EE savings bonds, which are purchased and are given in the parent's name. It's also a good way to save for college. Again, there's multiple strategies that we can implement for our members, our clients, and their families. Really want to think about what's going to be best for you and your family, and the type of money that you're able to allocate towards this saving strategy. All right, so a timeline for college. Really, if there's anyone in this call that have kids in high school and they're in the sophomore, their junior year of high school, this is the time that you're taking the SATs. It's the time that you're going and visiting different campuses and trying to identify where it is that your child's going to go. During the senior year of high school, still have more college visits. We'll do financial aid. With that comes the FAFSA, right? Or the free application for federal student aid. Now, with that, the earliest that you complete the FAFSA, the better it's going to be for you. You're going to be able to qualify for the highest amount of aid. October 1st of the year before you start college, it's when you want to do the FAFSA. So if anyone has a child or someone that's going to be a senior in high school in this upcoming fall year, and they will be starting college next fall, please make sure that by October 1st of this year, they complete the FAFSA. It's going to give them the ability to qualify for the highest amount of aid. So if you take anything out of it today, October 1st is a really big deadline. And the sooner you get that application in, the better it will be for yourself and your family. Now, as you complete the FAFSA, keep in mind that it's a free application. We have heard of advisors charging a fee for filling out the FAFSA. Don't pay any fees to anyone that's asking for it. It's a very simple process. I think as long as you have all of the pieces together and are ready to go when you submit the application with your taxes and all the different information they're going to ask you, it's pretty straightforward. Don't pay anyone to do that for you. Some of the items that are not going to be reported in the FAFSA, we get this question a lot, right? If my 401k or my IRAs, is that going to impact the amount of aid that my kid can get? The answer is no. So What doesn't get reported on that FAFSA application, it's your net worth of your family's principal residence. If you have any small business that is owned and controlled by the family, that doesn't go there. Any pensions, any 401ks, any traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, or any other qualified retirement plans, those are ignored for the FAFSA. You do not have to put that in there. What will get reported in the FAFSA is your bank accounts, any brokerage accounts, so any investable assets, that money has to be reported. Any investment real estate that you own will have to go there. And the reason why that's important, colleges and universities are going to expect the parents to use 5.64% of the unprotected assets towards the expected family contribution, or the EFC. So again, 5.64% is the amount that most universities will expect the parents to help out towards the expected family contribution. So if the majority of the assets are in your TSP, an IRA, Roth IRA, 457 or 401k plan, that money will not impact the financial aid of your kid. Any other investable accounts, they will, but to a certain extent. All right. So how can we help the students as they get ready to apply and start looking for ways to fund their college experience? So one, scholarships. There's different institutions, multiple of firms and companies that are willing to support students going into school. Scholarships just takes a little bit of time to do your homework, do the research, but if you can help out in any way, shape, or form, your family member, your kid, nephew, niece will really, really appreciate that. And if you have the means to support a portion of the college expenses, you can do that as well. Now, here's a little more background on the FAFSA. It's a quick one-page overview, right? Tells you what it is in conjunction between the federal government and state governments, college and career schools. They're going to be able to determine the amount of financial aid that you can get. Who should fill out the FAFSA? Everyone, right? Anyone that's getting ready to go to college should do it as early as October 1st. Now it says here the FAFSA is available January 1st. That has changed, that has been updated. Each state, for state of Maryland, it's October 1st of the year before your first year of college. So keep that in mind. You can set it up in multiple ways. I think most clients and their families do it electronically, but you could fill out the paper form and send it out. The school can submit it for you. And after your expected family contribution has been determined, right, you'll get a report that tells you how much they're anticipating you to help out. Have all the pieces with you as you're filling out the information. Have all the tax forms ready, all your bank accounts, all the stuff that has to be reported. Have that ready to go, and the process will be pretty smooth. Right. So from a scholarship standpoint, right, there are, again, multiple organizations that can help out the kids. Grandparents, sometimes they're a great resource for scholarships. So if they're able and have the means to do it, right, you could do that as well. A lot of our members and our clients have military service background, and the military provides scholarships to their children. So A Google search, look at your institution, look at your school, and see if there's any support for your kids to go to school. Okay. So as you're helping your child go to school and with their expenses, you know, how much can you support? For how long are you going to be able to do that? Um, Remember that you can always gift up to $15,000 to an individual, $30,000 for married couples, without having to pay any federal gift taxes. Right. So if you're in a position to provide those assets and make those types of gifts, then you have up to 15 if you're single, or 30,000 if you're married, where you don't have to worry about any gift taxes. You could also put something in your will or trust where the assets will go to the kids or to an educational institution, depending on what your child or family member would like to do. Now, a question that came up quite often, it's whether or not any educational debt, right? So if you have student loans, does that get reported on the FAFSA? Would that impact the financial aid of my kid? So if you have your own student loans from your graduate program, uh, that information, that educational debt that you have, is not reported on the FAFSA. It will have no impact on the expected family contribution. So you should not have to worry about that. Um, Again, the only components that get reported are your bank accounts, your brokerage accounts, and any investment in real estate. Now, funding considerations, right? So there's different ways that gifts, contributions could impact the financial aid for your kid. For financial aid purposes, qualified education benefits, such as your 529 plans, your Coverdale ESA, they're treated as parental assets. However, any 529 plan distributions from non-parent sources can be considered assets of the child and can have an impact on the financial aid. Meaning, if the grandparents have a 529 for your son or daughter and they would like to contribute to their education funding, you might want to have them do a distribution during their junior or senior year of college so that they're not impacted by the FAFSA and the financial aid calculation. Again, if someone else outside of the parents are able to contribute to the college funding and they would like to pay for some of those expenses, it's best to do it when the student is in their junior or senior year of college. Another way to make those contributions are to give directly to that educational institution, to your college, university, give directly to them. It could have an impact on the financial aid, but if it's a payment of over $15,000, you don't have to worry about federal gift taxes, as long as it's given to the school themselves. Paying for tuition, not room and board, tuition, would not go against the annual gift tax exclusions. And you also have to keep in mind all the other extra expenses that come with that, such as transportation, spending money, things of that sort. As you can see from this slide, there's a very small balance, right, that we need to figure out when we're planning for the funding stage for your education. But once we get there during the college years, we need to figure out what is the best way to pay for those expenses in a manner that's not going to negatively impact that student. And that's what we do for our members. We give them a roadmap on what the best strategy is for them to implement. Right. Some 529 plans, again, they have been pretty popular recently. They are officially qualified tuition programs, QTPs. Everybody knows them as 529 plans. The Virginia College Savings Plans by American Funds, they're mutual funds, so they will be subject to any gains or losses based on the market. We can help identify, based on the time horizon of the student, what mutual fund will be best for you to choose. But there's also more of your conservative investments, such as the CDs that you see here on the screen. Now, here are two 529 plan state rules. First and foremost, you can establish them for any child, right? They don't necessarily have to be your own children. They can be family members, relatives, someone you know, someone you want to sponsor. You can set it up for them. As the account owner, you're going to retain the control, and you'll have the flexibility to change the beneficiary at any point. You also have the ability to withdraw the funds at any time. But if you take any distributions and they're not geared towards your higher education expenses, you might be subject to income taxes and also penalties. Now, the Virginia College America 529 plan, which again is managed by American Funds, the minimum investment is $25. You do not have to be a Virginia resident to go into one. For those that do live in Virginia, there's a $4,000 annual deduction for contributions. Now, the Maryland plan is managed by T. Rowe Price. It is a very similar format. The state of Maryland gives the owner up to $2,500 for each beneficiary, or $5,000 per couple if they have separate accounts. And here is where the two plans come into play: the college savings plans and the prepaid tuition plan. Again, based on your time horizon and based on your risk tolerance level, you might be able to go one way or the other. The plans are very easy to set up. Both plans are. If you give us a call, we can help you set up either one of them and kind of point you in the right direction as far as which investment will be better suited for you. Now, GIVA has a scholarship foundation, and I was fortunate enough to attend one this year where we gave out up to 40 different scholarships of $2,500 apiece for academic, community, and career training excellence. Some of the qualifications are listed here on the screen. So in addition of providing financial planning and member services, we also want to be able to give back to our members. And this is one of the few things that sets GIVA apart from everyone else. So here's an example, and there's going to be a few of them here that I want to highlight. If Bailey, who's in the 7th grade, and she has 5 years left to go to college, she would like to go to an Ivy League school, and the parents have saved no money up to this point, right? How can they do this? What would happen knowing that the current cost to go to Cornell, it's $59,591, right? And that includes tuition, room and board, books and supplies, and any other personal expense. So let's take a look at this. Now that's the amount that's needed, almost $60,000 per year in 5 years. Tuition, we could assume that it's inflated at 6% annually. So in year one, those parents are going to need $79,000 to pay for the freshman year of college for Bailey. Year two is going to be 84. Year 3 and 4 will be higher than that. Now the total amount that's going to be needed over the 4-year time period could be close to $350,000, right? Now this family has a goal of saving $2,000 for the next 5 years in order to offset any expenses. So here's the reality, right? If they save $2,000 per year, depending on how that money is invested, right? Right here, we can assume that it's earning 6%. So it's not your typical savings account or money market accounts or CDs. Those rates are extremely low. So this would be an investment. You can see that in 5 years from now, when Bailey goes to freshman year, everything they've been able to save up to that point, it's going to be used towards the first year tuition number. In fact, we're going to be in the negative about $66,000, right? That a private institution or Ivy League school requires. Throughout the years, the amount that's needed, right, will be about $329,000 in order to fund the education for Bailey. So in this scenario, if you save early, you might not have to save as much. You can take advantage of compound interest and be able to maximize the earnings prior to the first year of college. Now here's a different example, right? So Connor's in the 3rd grade. There's 9 more years before he has to go into college. Now the parents for Connor would like him to go to a large in-state school. Parents have saved no money so far, but they would like for him to go to the University of Maryland, which right now is at $23,000 per year. And again, includes tuition, room and board, book supplies, and any personal expenses. So Connor, 3rd grade, 9 years to go. Let's see how this plays out. $23,000 per year in 9 years. If we assume the inflation rate, it's about 6%. You can anticipate the first year amount that's needed. It's going to be $39,000, right? Year 2, 41, year 3, 43, and year 4, 46,000. In total, what Connor is going to need during the 4 years at the University of Maryland, it's about $170,000, right? And again, the goal here for those parents are to save $2,000 for the next 9 years to offset any expenses. You can see the timeline here. Let's take the assumption that the savings are earning about 6% per year. Here's the reality, right? First year of college, $39,000 is the amount that's needed. Savings are $2,000. What those parents are going to do is they're going to utilize everything they've saved up to this point, but they're going to fall short of what's needed to fund the first year of college, right? Now they need about $14,000 to pay for the education expenses for the first year. They have no money left because they utilized everything they had. So after the 4 years, there's about $139,000 that needs to become available in order for Connor to pay the 4 years at the University of Maryland. Now, this example assumes that there's no scholarships, no contributions or savings prior to the $2,000 per year. Once again, the moral of the story here is to save early, put what you're comfortable with away for your children's benefit. There's different vehicles that we can utilize from a FAFSA plan, UG, UGMA or UDMA UTMA, educational bonds, Carbondale education savings plans. So there's a lot of tools for our members to utilize, and we can help you through which one is the best one for you and your family. During the college years, if there is a gap in the education funding, you could always look into the PLUS loans, right? And that's the parent loan to undergraduate students. Plus, there's the American Opportunity Credit. There's a lifetime learning credit that could be good depending on your income. There's different ways to finance your college years, especially if you take into account scholarships, grants, and things of that sort. Right. So here are some final thoughts, right? I think everyone has seen in the presentation, it's important to start saving as early as you can. It'll be great. Applying for the scholarships and then any other type of resources and funding will be important. So if you can help your children do that, please do so. If there's any way for yourself or any other family member, right, to help fund the education, and it's a great way to provide money. And we can help every step of the way to develop a plan that's relevant for what you're trying to achieve. And the benefits that you have as a civilian federal employee, you have access to all of us here at GIBA and the wealth management team. Right? We're here to complement your existing benefits and be able to position ideas that are going to complement and help you achieve whatever goals you have. All of our information will be listed here. Give us a call, visit our website, send us an email. Let us know how we can help out through the process. Myself, any one of my colleagues can help out. But thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Please do keep in mind, we're going to be sending out a copy of the presentation in the following days. There's also going to be a copy of the frequently asked questions sent out to the participants. So if you have a question out there and we did not get an opportunity to answer, you will get an email with the answer to your questions and some of the other relevant questions as well. Okay. I'm going to be here for a couple of minutes. See if there's any questions out there that I might be able to answer. You can type them up. Right. I don't think I'm seeing any questions come through I'll wait one more minute here, see if anybody has a question. Let's see, one of the questions coming through, can you use a 529 plan for trade schools? The answer is yes. Yes, you can. 529 plans are now eligible for grades K through 12, as well as college and your trade schools. Good question. Here's another one that came through. Do we apply online for the FAFSA, or should the high school provide us with something? You should go online and apply yourself as early as October 1st. So if the kid is going to the first year of college next fall, October 1st is the earliest date that you can apply for the FAFSA in order to get the highest amount of aid, financial aid. Some high schools are better than others depending on the county and where you live. But if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't rely on someone to do something for me. Google FAFSA, set it up, put a reminder in your calendar, and fill out the application October 1st. Probably the easiest way to do it. So I don't see any other questions that are coming through. All right, well, I just want to thank everyone for their time this afternoon. Really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to share with you such important topic. If I didn't get to your question, again, we will have a summary of the questions with the answers be given out over the next couple of days, in addition to the presentation itself. But thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday, good rest of your week. And if you have any questions or want any one-on-one advice consultation, just give us a call. We'll all be happy to help out. Thanks, everyone.